Alright everyone, we start off talking today about Kamalaharris' book being given out to illegal immigrant children when they arrive at the border concentration camps. At Beijing Biden's Kids in Cages camps for kids. I'm scratching my head thinking about how this could not be illegal or breach some sort of political regulations. I'm trying to imagine like if Trump was giving out copies of like his autobiography or something, it would be considered insane, first and foremost, massive optics fail. It'd be talked about into the ground by the MSM, and quite rightfully so. People in Congress would immediately organize an investigation, and it would actually be a legitimate reason to do so. Or Mike Pence. I don't know if he ever wrote a book, but this is probably illegal. Totally unacceptable in every meaningful sense, even if it's not. First and foremost, though, if you're watching this video on YouTube, there will be a pinned comment down below this video with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. I make 4 videos a day, but only 2 of them go on YouTube, because YouTube has been steadily more and more algorithmically throttling every independent content creator on the platform, especially those like me who primarily focus on news and political topics. We are being demoted almost out of sight and out of mind by the CEO Susan Wojcicki because she apparently hates 99% of the platform's users and wants them to shut up and just watch Vox or Fox News or other garbage. Anyway, this is unacceptable. Now keep in mind, sometimes things in a legal sense, they can be legal, but they would be considered generally unacceptable. If the average person knew that this was a thing, I think they would shake their heads a little bit and they'd say, maybe it's not the best optics. You come to the United States illegally. You're being processed. You're literally a kid in a cage, with presumably a limited grasp in many cases of English, because you get some 5-year-old kid, from Honduras or something like that. Not necessarily going to be a fully bilingual education system. And then you're given this book and you're told, well, this is from the big lady that runs the country. By the way, here's your space blanket and go in the cage. Wouldn't you think that if that kid has even reasonable intelligence, that those things become correlated? Like, here's the U.S. political system, the big mama of the country is giving me this book and then throwing me in a cage for a period that still, according to our own CDC guidelines, is excessive and technically illegal. Now, I remember when that happened briefly under Trump, everyone flipped out, and all of a sudden under Beijing Biden, it's not kids in cages anymore. It's unaccompanied migrants that are under 18 that are being temporarily held in a kids migrant facility. Sounds much more nice, doesn't it? It's a migrant facility. It's not a concentration camp where we process them and half the time boot them back over the border, which, by the way, is actually happening under Biden. It's just that there are too many people coming across. Did you see the story the other day from the sheriffs and stuff in Texas? They're so overwhelmed trying to process asylum seekers that they can't even do anything about the smugglers, about human trafficking. They are completely swamped. They're begging for help, and they're not going to get it. That's because that would actually be a meaningful solution to a problem that politically works very well for certain Democrats. You got to understand, and for many Republicans, by the way, to all of these like Texas sheriffs and things, you think the GOP wants to stop slaves from coming over the border? No, they want to exploit them so that they can make more money. Their corporate buddies love it. And those people, those corporations, donate to both parties, just so we're all aware. This is not uniquely a Beijing Biden or even a Democratic Party problem. This particular act, though, makes no sense. To politicize the border in such an overt manner that a person who is fiscally benefiting, this is Kamalaharris' book, she wrote it, benefiting explicitly from those books being bought, I'm assuming they're being acquired with taxpayer money, and then given to these kids, is just strange. It's sort of like when we talk about the issue of censorship. The First Amendment only prevents the government from telling you can't say certain things. It prevents the government, especially the federal government, from muzzling your speech. It doesn't technically protect you against a corporation doing that. I would argue that a corporation taking taxpayer subsidies and platforming government figures should fall under that broad umbrella, but it's not construed that way now. But there's an underlying principle and reason for the First Amendment that goes beyond its actual explicit protection in the sense of government censorship, which should be broadly applied by a reasonable person. A person of sound mind would apply that to other things and say, well, the obvious basis is free speech good, censorship bad, ergo, even if it's not illegal, corporations shouldn't be engaging in it. States shouldn't be engaging in it. People should not muzzle themselves. They should have a free and open discussion that includes on the internet, which is the modern public square. Like with this, there might or might not be some sort of federal regulation that prohibits this kind of behavior. I would hope there is. If there's not, that's a glaring oversight that desperately needs to be patched up. Because these are people, these unaccompanied minors, who potentially in the future, according to Beijing Biden himself, will have a path to residency and ergo potentially citizenship. You are essentially indoctrinating hundreds of thousands of children with what is loosely a political diatribe. Now, this particular book is like a kid's book. It's called Superheroesareeverywhere. And the idea is like, well, you're all different, but you all have these capabilities. You can all contribute and stuff. And it's sort of the ooey gooey little kid sort of sappy bullshit, like sub-Berenstein Bears level of mentality. But it's by the vice president. It's benefiting the vice president. And the fact that it's associated with that makes it political. The fact is that Kamalaharris is, first, she's not a kid's author. She's a political figure. She's an elected official. It doesn't matter if she writes a cookbook. Giving that cookbook out to these little immigrant children would still be at least morally reprehensible. And I mean, she won't even visit the fucking border. By the way, she's been loosely tasked with taking care of the problem. When asked if she intends to visit the border, no, not anytime soon. What do you think about the fact that there's so much overflow? There's kids in cages. He, says Kamala Harris. She doesn't care about these kids. It's really funny. The callousness with which she acts is way worse than Biden's just dementia haze. I'm glad that it's Biden in there as opposed to Kamala Harris. It's sort of like saying, well, there's a dog shit on your shoe, but it's not moldy yet. It's not like liquefied. It's just a standard dog poop. I realize that, but I'll take dementia haze dude over psychopath any day in an office that includes being in command of the U.S. nuclear stockpile. But this is, no, just the optics of this alone are terrible. Again, let's assume that there was a Trump admin doing something equivalent to this. It would be called a political move. It would be called basically bribery. It would be called out by Congress. An immediate investigation funded by taxpayers would be convened. It wouldn't even take them a day. They would literally shelf everything else, and they'd be saying, well, maybe this is impeachable. This sounds like it violates some sort of election law, some sort of political regulation. Probably does. Of course, you have to have it, in order for it to be actionable, you'd have to have a Department of Justice willing to do its job. The DOJ is out to lunch. For the next few years, don't expect them to do anything other than maybe like a Fast and Furious. They'll probably start giving guns to cartels again like Obama's DOJ did under Eric Holder. The IRS will probably be targeting conservative and progressive groups again. It's the bad old days of the mid-2010s. The exact era, by the way, that led to people voting for Trump in the first place because they were fucking goddamn tired of this sort of shit. This is the sort of weird shit that happened under Obama. You have this feel-good celeb president and vice president nonsense with Obama going on the Ellen show or talking to Oprah or something instead of doing his actual job. Never closed Gitmo, didn't withdraw troops and so forth. Trump was a workhorse to the exclusion of even talking to the media. He gets crucified for that, and now we're right back to square one, where we have an administration functioning kind of like a more mediocre, less personable version of the Obama admin. The corruption's there, but now you don't even have the personality. Joe Biden is out to lunch, which means Kamala's the de facto stand-in for public relations purposes. By the way, you couldn't get more disastrous than that. Kamala Harris should not be in a PR position because she laughs like a psycho when bad things are mentioned. Now, I don't know if that's just a nervous laugh and she just overdoes it because of her toe-clicking personality, her bracelet-jingling PR woman thing, her HR bullshit stick. I don't know, but it just doesn't come off right. It's not good optics. Well, when you're the number two in the asterisk administration, diplomacy and decorum and optics actually matter quite a bit. Remember, this was Dick Cheney's problem. That's about all. Peace out.